Good morning, Bitcoin. My name is Thomas Hunt, and this is Proof of Work, a show about the people behind Bitcoin and how they got here. We're joined by Dr. Tom from Commerce Block. How's it going, Tom?
It's going really well. Cheers, Tom. Good name, by the way.
Yeah, I know. It's easy to remember this way. So thanks so much for being on the show. We're going to go ahead and start with everyone's most favorite and familiar question. What was your first computer?
So the first computer I ever used was my mum's IBM PC back, I guess, in the late 80s. So that was my first kind of experience of.
And what did you do with it when you first got on there? Typing tutors?
Games, but I also remember I've got very vivid memories of used to get games on the back of magazines that you had to type in. You had to type in the code.
Sure.
Obviously, at that age, not really understanding any of it. Go through and it wouldn't work unless every single piece of syntax was exactly right.
Absolutely.
I just remember being very frustrated.
Did you ever get them to work?
I did get them to work eventually.
Success?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good. And did it teach you about programming, just typing the things?
Yeah, so then I kind of, I mean, I think it got me early on. I mean, I remember kind of getting into trying to learn C and C++ when I was like 11, 12 years old, and, you know, but
and
yeah.
What kind of programs did you write at that point?
Just messing around. I never really kind of did anything that
I found it was really hard to connect the kind of program they were trying to teach me with actually doing anything. Like I could ask it a question and I could respond and I could save some responses, or I could display something on the screen, but it never really connected to anything I really wanted to do. So then I didn't really do computer science till years later. I wanted to blog, and so I got PHP and MySQL, and I had something to do now. I understood put it in the database, take it out of the database. It made sense to me. I was like, I wanted to do it. Whereas before it was like stacking arrays of numbers, and I'm like, what am I doing?
Why am I doing that?
Like, why am I doing these numbers? And you put them in forward, you put them in backwards. I'm like, okay, I'm done with this. So, but for you, it was more interesting. Did you continue with the programming?
Yeah, I kind of did. I mean, I didn't really have like real exposure to kind of doing more interesting things until I went to university. And
did you study in programming there, or
no? I did a physics degree.
Oh,
but
nice.
the learning several different programming languages was part of the curriculum. You know, so
that's pretty neat. Like the way they make you take foreign language. In our country, you have to learn a little bit of Spanish. Yeah. So it'd be maybe better off for everybody if they learned a little bit of HTML.
Well,
or
probably
something.
these days it should be quite kind of mandatory. I think in schools, you know, it's such a big part of the world. You know.
So after you got your physics degree, did you continue using computers, or did you get a job in physics?
Yeah, so I did a PhD in kind of theoretical computational physics. So it was
so it's
doing
like
modeling.
the Big Bang Theory guys now.
Yeah. I mean, it was like doing modeling of like matter on the kind of atomic and molecular scale, and this would involve kind of basically a mix of kind of doing software development to actually develop the tools you needed to do the simulations, and then running very computer intensive simulations on like big national supercomputer kind of resources and stuff. So
sounds like the kind of thing you'd want to mine Bitcoin on.
Exactly.
Did that,
this is
idea ever cross your mind in the early days?
This is exactly this. When I first heard about Bitcoin and kind of actually looked into it, it was probably 2013, 2014, and obviously you'd see it mentioned in the media, and so I kind of looked into it, and I learned kind of how it worked, and found out about how mining works.
Sure.
My initial kind of thought was, because at the time I had access to these huge kind of computational resources, and I was thinking, could you do that? And then I kind of found out that actually no, you can't, because by then it was all ASICs and FPGAs, and obviously these kind of supercomputers are all just CPUs, and that it would never work. And I was a bit disappointed and thought,
I had a similar idea when I first found Bitcoin. My digital reaction to everything is always, I'll just make a copy of that. And with Bitcoin, I was like, I'll make a copy of that, and then I'll have more money. This is great. Like, give me all the digital money you got. I'll copy that just like everything else I've ever copied. So I found out later you can't double spend it. You can't copy it. They'd done a lot of work to keep me from doing what I wanted to do. But I remember, Steve Jobs and Xerox, they're always like, the computer's a copy machine. Like, whatever it gets, it copies. And that's been disastrous for movies and music and all these other things. And now we're going to see if it's disastrous for money, but it's not quite the copying, it's more the distribution that is changing things on this one. So were you excited about Bitcoin when you found it?
So I found it fascinating.
Physics immediately?
No, I mean, I kind of I've always had a kind of, from a young age, been really into cryptography and fascinated by cryptography and the whole kind of, all the really cool mechanisms and protocols you can use to communicate with people in really interesting ways. And so that drew me to Bitcoin and I learned about Bitcoin. And then, a little time after that, I think like 2016, I made a decision that I didn't want to stay doing what I was doing in scientific research. I think I found that I was a lot more interested in the kind of the building of things, I found it much more interesting to actually build a piece of software to do a simulation than I would be actually doing the science in terms of actually running it and finding out things.
I found the same kind of thing with history, where they taught me it very early on, and I was supposed to go write the books of the world. And I was like, I'm so young, I don't know shit. What am I going to do with writing the books of the world? I want to get involved in the world. I want to do something in the world. Maybe later I'll circle back and try to write a history, but it just didn't seem compatible with the early life that I had. So with learning about Bitcoin, where did you go from there?
So I made a decision I wanted to leave kind of academia, so I just started looking for jobs, different technical jobs, but it's like software development jobs.
Sure.
And then, just kind of out the blue, I got called by a recruiter who was hiring for a company. At the time, it's called Encrypt.
Yeah.
I think everyone knows it as N-Chain.
Sure.
And this, just came out of the blue, and it seemed like an absolutely, very. Obviously, I found a little bit out about the history of the organisation.
Sure.
But it was all very compelling and fascinating to me, and so I took the job, and then worked there for just over a year and a half, which was, to be honest, I think obviously it's a very infamous place. But it was a great opportunity for me, and essentially I worked in a team of researchers, and we were given a lot of independence. We could kind of pretty much do what we want. We were told, essentially, you have to produce intellectual property to be patented.
Sure.
And that we had to one white paper a month and just do whatever you want. So it was like, no, it was great, because you basically would just spend all your day learning all about cryptography, learning all about Bitcoin, learning all about all this new exciting stuff, and just coming out with these crazy ideas. And it didn't really matter if they worked or not.
Wow. Well, that's pretty interesting. Did you get to meet Craig Wright?
I did, yes. I mean, when Craig started coming a lot more involved, when I joined, it was in 2016, so it's quite soon after the May stuff happened. And
when he claimed that he was Satoshi Nakamoto, maybe he is, maybe not. Did he have a top hat and a coat? Did he have like tails and a twisted mustache? What was he like when you met him?
When I first started there, you very rarely saw him. He wasn't hardly there at all. He would come into the office like maybe once a month.
Sure.
He was like a consultant. Then in 2017, they kind of brought him, get a lot more involved, and he became like chief scientist. But he wasn't that involved with, the work that the research team did. But he's an interesting character. So I kind of I don't want to. I signed an NDA. I don't want to get in any trouble.
Sure. Well, we'll let that one go. But we have to ask for the people at home, because they just want to know anything about Craig Wright. Whether or not he's Satoshi, he's a fascinating individual, and he's added a lot of color and flavor to cryptocurrency.
Maybe the world would be a less interesting place without people like Craig.
I think it would be. There's also a gap there. It's always good to have someone around who's claiming to be Satoshi. Gives the media something to do, someone to interview. And although it doesn't really go anywhere, it's like a hamster in a wheel. They're satisfied. Yeah. So after you worked at N-Chain, what did you do next? You continue working in Bitcoin?
Yeah. I while I was at N-Chain, N-Chain. I think trouble I had with N-Chain was it was great, the amount of freedom we had, but nothing was really going anywhere, I think. And the reason I left academia is I wanted to get into building things, actually, and seeing things, go from an idea into a real working, product. And so, but then this great opportunity came up with working with Nick at Commerce Block. It was a bit of a step into the unknown, because Commerce Block at the time was just Nick.
Yeah. Reminds me. There's a great movie where the guy works at a temp agency, and it's called like One Temp. And later on, he's like, maybe I'm the only temp for one temp, and the entire company is me. And he's like, this is not very good. It's not a good feeling. So, but startups are often like that. You have to jump in. You have to try the new things. And I know my parents are always freaked out that we have this new lifestyle. We're into startups and all these companies. It's not the same as just having that job that you work at for 30 years and having a pension and they give you a gold watch. So. What was it like to go into the startup world? Did you get funding right away, or was it a little off and on at first?
Well, no, I mean, I think it was, well, I mean, with anything, it's unknown. And especially in the crypto industry, even if there is funding, sometimes it's difficult because, banks don't want to talk to you, and it's a difficult kind of environment to be in. But no, it was very exciting because we basically we could start very quickly, like developing, and that I had a lot of input into developing the core technology and our kind of core platform. So but it's very exciting at the start, and the team grew slowly over the year, and now we're kind of about 9 people.
Nice.
We've got kind of some really great people working for us who are now kind of core dev level, kind of inside the Bitcoin client and.
Nice. Well, I know it's very difficult. You have to raise that initial funding, but then even after you've raised the funding, then it started the clock, and you're on the runway. And how long is the runway going to last? So. Have you guys had any success in launching the programs? Have you created like 1.0 versions of what
pretty
you're
much.
on?
I mean, we've been working on several different things kind of simultaneously, and the next few months are kind of critical for us to launch the first proper like asset-backed sidechain for one of our clients.
Nice.
And also we have this mainstay service, which any kind of non-Bitcoin blockchain can plug into Bitcoin's immutability.
Okay.
And this mainstay service is, we're pretty much ready to go. We're in the kind of final testing, so this is going to be exciting. Hopefully, probably in the next week or so, we're going to launch this kind of live.
Very cool.
So exciting times.
Well, that sounds great. Thanks for joining us for the interview. Where can people learn more about your work and what you're up to?
Just go to commerceblock.com, and we've got some white papers on there that explain some of our kind of concepts and ideas about what we build. So.
All right, and then we'll just have to circle back someday when that NDA expires. Get some more Craig Wright stories on
spill
here.
The beans
all the dirty, nasty ones. So we'll wait till that day.
Yeah, I've seen some things.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Tom, for joining us.
Cheers. Thank you.